A notification pings from another tab. My banking app. Insufficient funds for an automatic payment. Again. 6 months ago, I was a mid-level IT specialist at Global Tech Marketing in Manchester. My days consisted of troubleshooting printer issues and resetting forgotten passwords for marketing executives who viewed tech support as digital janitors. Then came the redundancies, economic downturn, budget cuts, restructuring, corporate buzzwords that translated to one reality: I was expendable. The first month of unemployment wasn't unbearable. I had savings, not substantial, but enough to maintain a semblance of normalcy while I hunted for new opportunities. But as weeks stretched into months and rejection emails multiplied, my bank account dwindled alongside my sense of security. My modest flat in Dunstable transformed from sanctuary to overpriced cage, with rent consuming what little remained of my financial cushion. Last week, a pipe burst in my bathroom. The landlord took 3 days to send someone. The plumber left muddy footprints across my carpet and a bill for £180, an emergency call-out fee, not covered by the property management. That was the final straw that broke my financial back, pushing my account into overdraft territory I couldn't escape. The online forum started as mere distraction from mounting bills. Forums where anonymous users shared stories of systemic collapse, of corporate betrayal, of individuals forced to create their own safety nets when traditional ones failed them. Initially, I viewed them with skeptical detachment, digital venting spaces for the disaffected, but their voices began to resonate, talking of systems designed to fail people like me, of self-reliance in a world of broken promises, of protection against worst-case scenarios that loomed ever closer. I discovered the forum thread after my 4th job rejection in a single day. When the system fails you, create your own security. Hundreds of comments from people sharing similar stories of economic freefall. Their solutions range from cryptocurrency investments to underground bartering systems to, more disturbingly, methods of personal protection outside legal frameworks. One comment caught my attention, linking to additional resources for serious researchers only. I clicked, expecting another forum. Instead, I found detailed instructions for accessing certain marketplaces on the dark web. The comment promised nothing, suggested nothing, but the implication was clear. When conventional options fail, unconventional ones await. For 2 weeks, I merely observed. Learned. I told myself it was academic curiosity, nothing more. Just another IT professional exploring the architecture of internet underspaces. I convinced myself I was maintaining professional knowledge, not preparing, not considering, just learning. Until tonight. The dark web marketplace glows on my screen, its rudimentary interface masking sophisticated security. I'd researched for weeks before attempting access, learning about cryptocurrency transactions, PGP encryption, and unwritten rules of these shadowy corners of the internet. My cursor moves methodically through categories: drugs, counterfeit documents, hacked accounts, stolen data. I navigate past them directly to hardware, a thin euphemism for weapons. Something flickers at my window, a reflection or shadow movement. I freeze, heart suddenly racing. After 30 seconds of paralyzed vigilance, I identify the source. Just the neighbor's security light, triggering from a passing cat. The momentary panic embarrasses me, but also reinforces my purpose. This growing fear, this constant vigilance, this is precisely why I'm here. I've never owned a gun, never fired one outside a controlled range during a stag do years ago. British firearms laws had always been a distant concept, irrelevant to my daily existence, but desperation rewrites principles with remarkable efficiency. Just insurance, I tell myself. Just control in an uncontrollable life. I select a Glock 19 from a highly rated vendor, gently used, serial number removed. The Bitcoin price equals nearly £3,000, 2 months of my remaining savings, but safety transcends price tags. The vendor's profile shows hundreds of satisfied customers with comments alluding to smooth transactions and quality merchandise. Their response time averages under 3 hours. Their rating, perfect 5 stars across 127 transactions. Too perfect. I hesitate, cursor hovering over the contact vendor button. In legitimate marketplaces, perfect ratings trigger suspicion. Inevitable dissatisfied customers, occasional misunderstandings, shipping damages. Perfection suggests manipulation. But here I am, considering an illegal purchase from an anonymous vendor with suspiciously perfect feedback. Desperation truly is the enemy of critical thinking. A sudden power fluctuation causes my lights to dim momentarily. Another sign? A warning from the universe. Or just the aging electrical infrastructure of my building succumbing to overnight power demands. The moment passes, but leaves residual unease like static electricity on skin. I complete the encrypted form and arrange the dead drop delivery through the complex system the vendor outlines. Transaction finished, I close my laptop. A strange chill spreads through my chest, replacing the momentary surge of purpose. I've stepped beyond a boundary I never thought I'd cross. The vendor's instructions are to wait for confirmation, anywhere from hours to days. Sleep becomes a luxury. I check my encrypted email constantly, twitching at every notification. My mind conjures worst-case scenarios: police at my door, bank accounts frozen, imprisonment. The irony doesn't escape me. Seeking security has made me more paranoid than ever. At work the following day, a temporary data entry position paying barely above minimum wage, I nearly jump out of my skin when the office security guard greets me in the lobby. His casual morning sounds accusatory to my guilty conscience. I mumble a response and hurry to my windowless cubicle, where I spend the day mechanically inputting figures while compulsively checking my phone under the desk. When confirmation finally arrives 3 days later, its brevity chills me. 2 days later, detailed instructions appear. The exchange location, an abandoned industrial area outside Dunstable. Coordinates, time, 2 a.m. tomorrow. And warnings that deviating from protocol means cancellation without refund. Cash only, come alone. Follow specific routes to avoid CCTV cameras. Something about the precise nature of these arrangements triggers my first real unease. The vendor specified a meeting point that maximizes isolation. Strange for someone merely selling merchandise. A stray thought surfaces. What if the product isn't what's being valued in this transaction? I dismiss the paranoia, just nerves from crossing into illegality. That evening, I withdraw cash from scattered ATMs across town, never taking enough from any single machine to trigger reporting requirements. After the third withdrawal, my card declines. Insufficient funds. I'd miscalculated. The recent overdraft fees had reduced my available balance. Panic rises as I mentally recalculate. I'm £320 short. I return to my flat and desperately search for valuables. My watch, a gift from my father, might fetch enough at a pawn shop. I have exactly 90 minutes before shops close. The race against time leaves me sweating as I rush across town, only to receive an offer of only £280. Desperate haggling increases it to £300, still short. I empty my wallet of emergency cash, count out coins from the jar in my kitchen, and scrape together the final amount by selling my rarely used tablet to a cash converter shop just before closing. The clerk eyes me suspiciously as I anxiously check the time. His deliberate slowness in processing the transaction feels pointed, accusatory. Back in my flat, I purchase a prepaid phone, black clothing, and gloves from unfamiliar shops. Each action minimizes my digital trail. Following advice from the forums that guided me here, the prepaid phone, a basic model requiring no identification, feels alien in my hand compared to my regular smartphone. Its primitive interface reminds me of devices from a decade ago. Functional but stripped down, anonymous, disposable, like unbecoming. As I lay out these items on my bed, doubt resurfaces. The arrangement feels overtly clandestine, even for an illegal weapons purchase. The vendor's rating was perfect, suspiciously so. 5 stars across dozens of transactions, without a single complaint or issue. In legitimate marketplaces, such perfection raises red flags about fake reviews. Why had I dismissed this in a space where deception carries far deadlier stakes? My phone buzzes. My landlord threatening eviction next week if rent remains unpaid. The hesitation dissolves. This is survival. This is reclaiming control. Even if the situation feels wrong, the alternative, homelessness, complete financial ruin, seems worse. I try to sleep before the night's activities, but achieve only fragmented consciousness, jerking awake from micro-dreams where police sirens wail or shadowy figures surround my bed. Each time, I check the clock. 10:47 p.m., 11:23 p.m., 12:05 a.m. The minutes crawl with excruciating slowness until it's time to prepare. The night of the exchange arrives with a sudden drop in temperature, unseasonably cold for September. I dress in black, hide the cash in my jacket's inner pocket, and slip the prepaid phone into my jeans. I leave my regular phone behind and take precautions the forums recommended, exiting through the rear door, following a winding path to a distant bus stop, paying fare with cash. On the night bus, only 3 other passengers ride. An elderly man who appears homeless, clutching a plastic bag of possessions. A young woman with headphones staring blankly out the window, and a middle-aged man in work clothes, likely finishing a late shift. Do any of them notice me? Do any of them care about my destination or purpose? The young woman briefly makes eye contact, then returns to her window vigil. The momentary connection sends a jolt of paranoia through me. Does she know? Could she possibly suspect? Dunstable's nighttime transformation renders familiar landmarks alien and threatening. The bus carries me to the industrial district's edge, where abandoned factories loom like fossilized behemoths against the moonlit sky. As I step off the bus, my footsteps echo against concrete with unsettling clarity in the stillness. The bus pulls away, its taillights diminishing into the distance, taking with them my last connection to civilization. I am truly alone now. Or am I? A fog darts across the road ahead, freezing momentarily in my sightline before vanishing into shadows. Its sudden appearance and disappearance leaves me unnerved, heart pounding against my ribs like it might break through. I check coordinates on the prepaid phone before venturing deeper into the derelict labyrinth. Without streetlights, I use the phone's flashlight in brief bursts that compromise my night vision and heighten my unease. Each shadow-cast building could conceal watchers. Each broken window might frame observing eyes. The isolation that earlier seemed like security protocol now feels like strategic vulnerability. A sudden noise, metal scraping against concrete, freezes me mid-step. I extinguish my light and press against a wall, listening intently. Seconds stretch into a full minute of silence. Just the wind-moving debris, or something else. When no further sound follows, I proceed, but with heightened vigilance that borders on paranoia. The designated meeting point appears, a loading dock behind a former furniture factory. Rust consumes the metal railings while weeds reclaim the concrete through stubborn cracks. I arrive at 1:47 a.m. Early, but caution outweighs courtesy in these circumstances. Positioning myself in shadows beside the loading dock, I secure clear sight lines to all approaches. The night air carries distant rain and industrial decay. A metallic taste coats my tongue. Fear made physical. I suppress the urge to check the time again, knowing the screen's glow could reveal my position. Minutes pass with excruciating slowness. Each sound, distant traffic, the creaking of abandoned structures settling, the scurrying of urban wildlife triggers fresh adrenaline surges. My muscles ache from sustained tension, ready to flee at the first sign of danger. At 1:58, a notification chimes softly from my prepaid phone. The message redirects me to new coordinates, a location nearly half a mile east. My throat constricts as though invisible hands tightened around it. This wasn't in the protocol. The vendor had been explicit about adherence to original instructions, warning that deviation would result in transaction cancellation. A legitimate change would come through the same encrypted channel as our previous communications. I silence the phone and remain motionless. Either someone is attempting to redirect me, or the vendor has broken their own security practices. Neither option comforts. I consider abandoning the transaction entirely, writing off the lost Bitcoin as tuition in a harsh lesson about digital underworlds. Exactly 2 a.m., according to my watch. The vendor should appear within minutes. I scan the darkness, searching for movement, for the approaching silhouette of my contact. Nothing. The seconds tick by. 2 minutes passed. 5 minutes passed. The lengthening absence confirms my suspicion. Something has gone wrong. At precisely 2:03, movement catches my eye. A lone figure emerges between distant buildings, approaching with deliberate, measured steps. They move with unsettling confidence, not the cautious manner of someone conducting illegal business, but the assured stride of someone navigating familiar territory. Something in that walk, too controlled, too precise, sends a warning pulse through my nerves. The figure stops 20 feet from the loading dock, head tilting mechanically as they scan the area. Their face remains hidden beneath a hooded jacket, but their posture screams predator, not merchant. My instinct screams to run, but I remain frozen in shadow. The figure reaches into their pocket, withdrawing not a package, but a small device that emits a faint glow. They consult it, then turn deliberately toward my hiding spot with unnatural precision. The notification on my phone suddenly makes terrible sense. Not a competing buyer trying to divert me, but a hunter attempting to flush out prey. Perhaps even a tactic they've refined through repetition. Send unexpected instructions. Observe which hiding spots suddenly produce movement as nervous buyers check their phones. My suspicion solidifies when the figure speaks into what must be a communication device. Though too distant to hear the words, the gesture itself reveals everything. I'm not dealing with a lone seller, but an organized operation. I slide deeper into shadow, weighing impossible options. The loading dock offers no exit except past this figure. Behind me stands the facility's sealed entrance, secured with ancient chains and padlocks. The surrounding area provides no cover for a sprint to safety, only open ground where I'd be immediately spotted. A small rock dislodges from somewhere above me, clattering loudly against the loading dock's metal surface. I freeze, barely breathing, as the figure's head snaps toward the sound, toward me. Had I disturbed it unknowingly, or was this incredibly bad luck? The figure advances toward the loading dock with unnerving directness. No hesitation, no searching. They know exactly where I am. I turn to the chain doors, my only chance. The padlock is substantial, but the hasp securing it to the door has corroded over decades of neglect. I brace against the door frame and pull the chain with desperate strength. Metal groans but holds. The approaching footsteps quicken. I yank again, throwing my full weight backward. The hasp tears partially from rotted wood with a betraying screech. One final pull breaks it free. The chains slither through the handles as I slip inside, a beam of light slicing through the space I occupied seconds before. The abandoned factory's interior stretches before me, a cathedral of shadows. Moonlight filtering through broken windows reveals a vast production floor littered with debris, fallen ceiling tiles, shattered glass, remnants of human occupation. The air thickens with dust and decay, carrying the musty scent of forgotten places. My lungs protest with the urge to cough, but survival instinct suppresses the reflex. I navigate primarily by touch, putting distance between myself and the entrance. Behind me, chains rattle as my pursuer discovers my escape route. They'll follow within seconds. I need to find hiding space or another exit. My shoe connects with something solid, sending it skittering across the concrete with a betraying clatter. I freeze, listening. The entrance door creaks open. They're inside. The factory floor transitions to administrative areas, smaller rooms containing skeletal office furniture. I duck into a former manager's office with walls intact but no door. Not a hiding place, but a moment to regroup and plan. A beam of light sweeps the main floor as my pursuer enters. Their methodical movements suggest professional training or experience. No wasted motion, no hesitation. The beam pauses, then divides into 3 separate lights. Not one hunter, 3. Ice forms in my stomach. The entire transaction, the vendor profile, the gun listing, the positive reviews. All elaborate fiction designed to lure desperate people to isolated locations. But why? Robbery seems too mundane for this level of preparation. Something else drives these predators. I crouch behind a decaying desk as a light beam sweeps across the office doorway. It lingers suspiciously before continuing. They know I'm nearby. Time is evaporating. A spider descends from the ceiling directly in front of my face. I flinch involuntarily, nearly losing balance and knocking over a rusted metal bin. The near miss leaves me trembling. Even the smallest sound could now prove fatal. My eyes, adjusted to darkness, spot a ceiling access panel above. My only chance. I wait until the searching beams focus elsewhere before silently pushing the desk beneath the panel. The furniture protests with a groan, but the hunters don't immediately respond. I climb atop the desk and push against the panel. Years of undisturbed grime seal it, until it suddenly gives way. I pull myself into the crawl space just as light floods the office again. The space above the ceiling is claustrophobic and dust-filled. Each breath threatens to trigger a cough that would immediately reveal my position. I lie flat across ceiling joists, knowing the ancient tiles between them wouldn't support my weight. Below, slivers of light pierce through cracks as hunters conduct a thorough search. A persistent tickle builds in my throat, dust particles irritating sensitive tissue. I press my sleeve against my mouth, fighting the urge to cough with every fiber of my being. The pressure builds, eyes watering, chest constricting. I inch forward along the joists away from the office. The crawl space extends across several rooms until reaching the open expanse above the main factory floor. No continuing without dropping down, directly into the hunting ground. A crash echoes from the office where I entered the ceiling. They found my route. Worse, the impact destabilizes the already precarious structure. A tremor runs through the joist beneath me as dust rains downward. Stealth no longer matters, only speed. I identify a momentarily clear area below and push downward with all my strength. The ceiling disintegrates and I plummet through cascading debris. I land hard, pain shooting through my ankle. The crash creates momentary confusion as hunters converge on the collapsing ceiling. For the first time, they break silence. Sharp commands cutting through dust clouds. The voices hold no accent, just clinical efficiency in deploying resources to recapture their prey. My ankle throbs, possibly sprained, definitely damaged. Each step sends fresh waves of pain, but adrenaline pushes me forward. I limp toward a stairwell leading upward. Higher ground seems counterintuitive for escape, but they'll expect me to flee toward ground-level exits. The unpredictable path might buy precious seconds. The stairs protest beneath my weight as I ascend. Behind me, light beams become frantic in their search patterns. They've temporarily lost my trail, but won't remain confused long. Halfway up, a stair gives way beneath my foot. I pitch forward, barely catching myself on the railing. The rotted wood crumbles in my grasp. For a sickening moment, I'm suspended in space, certain I'll fall. Somehow, miraculously, my other hand finds purchase on a more solid section. I pull myself upward, heart thundering so loudly, I'm certain they must hear it echoing through the building. The second floor contains rows of empty shelving creating a maze-like structure. I navigate through them, seeking windows or roof access, while my injured ankle threatens collapse with each step. Blood pulses against my temples with such intensity, I fear they might hear it too. A sudden noise from the stairwell. Footsteps, multiple sets, ascending with deliberate caution. They found my trail again. Time evaporates like morning dew in summer heat. Moonlight spills through a broken window at the storage area's far end. Looking out reveals a partially collapsed roof section below the window. Then a 20-foot drop to the ground. Not ideal, but approaching footsteps on the stairs eliminate alternatives. I ease through the broken window onto the unstable roof section, which immediately protests under my weight. Below, discarded pallets and construction debris offer a marginally better landing than bare concrete. A flashlight beam sweeps across the storage area behind me as the roof section begins collapsing. I push off, directing my descent toward the debris pile. The impact drives air from my lungs and sends fresh pain through my ankle, but miraculously leaves me conscious and mobile. Splintered wood tears my palms as I stagger upright. I hear the roof section crash completely as I push away from the wall, forcing my damaged body into a stumbling run. The industrial complex forms a maze of derelict buildings, all potential hiding places, all potential traps. I have no plan beyond creating distance, hoping that my pursuer's determination has limits. A distant engine sounds, a vehicle approaching. Relief floods me momentarily. Civilization, witnesses, safety. But the engine cuts abruptly, followed by car doors closing with muffled precision. Not random passers-by, reinforcements. A metallic click stops me, the unmistakable sound of a round being chambered. A silhouette detaches from the shadow of a dumpster ahead. My stomach drops through ice. How had they gotten before me? I pivot only to see a second figure emerging between buildings to my left. They've herded me, using my panic against me, driving me along a predictable path while closing their net. My remaining option is a narrow alley between two warehouses. I lunge toward it despite my screaming ankle. The alley is dark and obstacle-strewn, but navigable. Behind me, I hear my pursuers control pace, unhurried. They know the alley's a dead end. Halfway down the passage, my foot catches on something, a discarded pipe or bar. I stumble, catching myself against the rough brick wall. Skin tears from my palms, adding fresh pain to my inventory of injuries. I push onward, desperation mounting with each step. After 30 yards, a chain-link fence topped with barbed wire halts my escape. Too high to climb, especially injured. I turn, back against the fence, facing my approaching hunters. Their flashlights switch off, but ambient light from distant street lamps reveals their steady advance. The lead figure stops 10 feet away, close enough to see his face beneath the hood. Young, ordinary looking, except for eyes empty of empathy or emotion. Clinical eyes that observe suffering with scientific detachment. He raises something that reflects dully in the dim light. A smartphone. On its screen, my photograph, taken from social media I'd deleted months ago. Beside it, information I'd believed private. My Dunstable address, employment history, bank account activity showing my deepening financial crisis, the precise amount of my overdraft, the exact figure in my savings account before redundancy, the monthly utility costs for my flat. The gun was never real. It was bait, selected based on digital breadcrumbs revealing my desperation. Everything, from forum posts resonating with my fears to the vendor's high rating, was crafted to lead me here, to this alley, to this moment. Understanding freezes my blood more effectively than fear. I wasn't randomly selected. I was profiled, studied, and targeted with the precision of commercial algorithms that determine which advertisements we see online. Except this campaign's conversion goal wasn't purchase, but capture. The young man pockets the phone and withdraws a real gun from his jacket. Behind him, the second hunter raises what I now recognize as a camera, its recording light blinking steadily. The third blocks any slim hope of escape. The details of my financial life appear on a device screen. My monthly internet costs, my VPN subscription fee, the precise amounts withdrawn from cash machines across Dunstable over the past week. They've catalogued my desperation in sterile spreadsheet format, treating my gradual economic collapse as clinical data points. They hadn't just tracked my digital movements, they'd invaded every aspect of my digital life. The leader aims at my chest with mechanical precision. The camera adjusts position slightly, framing the scene with professional detachment. This isn't just execution, it's production. Another device appears displaying video footage. A man trapped exactly as I am now, backed against a fence. Comprehension dawning across his features. The timestamp shows last month's date. The footage ends with a muzzle flash. I straighten against the fence. In my final clarity, I understand my fatal error. I hadn't sought a weapon. I'd unknowingly auditioned for a role. Every digital breadcrumb I'd dropped had marked me not as consumer, but as commodity. Not customer, but content. My desperation wasn't vulnerability to be exploited. It was the precise quality they'd been hunting. A distant siren wails, police or ambulance, impossible to determine. For a fleeting moment, hope flickers, but the hunters don't even glance toward the sound. They know response times to this abandoned district. They've calculated their window precisely. The gun barrel aligns with my chest. I close my eyes, refusing to give them the satisfaction of capturing my fear. In the darkness behind my eyelids, I hear the soft exhalation of the leader's breath as his finger tightens on the trigger. The gunshot echoes through the Dunstable industrial wasteland, transforming from a single report into a cacophony that seems endless. The bullet tears through me, and as consciousness fades, my final thought is of my laptop, still glowing in my empty flat, the digital gravestone I carved with my own desperate keystrokes. The hunters pack their equipment with practiced efficiency. They've captured what they came for, another episode in their macabre series. The footage will be edited, enhanced, distributed to subscribers who pay premium rates for authentic content. My death will be categorized, tagged, and monetized. British male, 34, IT professional, financial distress, Dunstable location. In the digital marketplace where I thought I was the customer, I was always the product. My body grows cold in the alley, while somewhere in the darkest corners of the internet, a vendor account updates its perfect rating statistics, maintaining immaculate credibility to lure the next desperate soul seeking security in an insecure world. My story becomes data, content, entertainment, another digital artifact in an endless archive of human vulnerability exploited for profit and pleasure. The cycle continues, invisible to those who haven't yet reached the level of desperation, where safeguards and skepticism crumble before basic survival needs. The hunters disappear into the night, leaving nothing but cooling blood and a cautionary tale that will never be told. By morning, my body will be gone, erased as thoroughly as my digital footprint will be sanitized. No connection between the unemployed IT specialist and the content newly available in exclusive subscription-only forums. The marketplace listing remains active. The Glock 19 still displays as available, its perfect reviews enticing the next desperate soul who believes they're purchasing security rather than auditioning for annihilation. The digital hunt continues, endless and invisible, harvesting those who have fallen through society's cracks into a shadow economy where they are no longer consumers, just consumables. 2 days later, an email arrives in my former manager's inbox, a job application for a position similar to mine from someone whose employment history, financial situation, and recent online behaviors fit a familiar profile. The cycle begins anew, another target identified, another hunt initiated. In the darkest corners of the internet, where desperation meets opportunity, the predators continue to feed, invisible to all but their carefully selected prey.